This patch, honestly, I feel like this is about as good as it could have been. There are, let's just go through it. Okay, so for balance changes, they didn't change any weapons at all, which I think it's a fair thing because what BMG has to do, since they're on so many like consoles and stuff, and they're on so many different platforms, they have to submit a patch to those consoles way in advance, if that makes sense. So, fucking Ubisoft, or I shouldn't say fucking, Microsoft, Sony, okay, Sony, whoever owns Xbox, Nintendo, Steam, iOS, all that stuff, they all have to approve the patch. So they have to send it to them way in advance. Anyways, the point of me saying that is that these changes were in way before Winters, if that makes sense. So none of the results of the Winter Championships could have impacted these changes, like could have impacted any of the balance changes. So I think it's a good thing that they didn't really change any of the weapons like in advance. Something that they've done in the past, actually, back in 2019, there's a tournament called Super Summer Slam, and that tournament happened, and the metagame in that tournament was like top 4 was all Katars. And like right before the tournament, everyone found out that Katars were super good that patch. And right after the tournament, there was a patch that buffed the fuck out of Katars. Because prior to that tournament, Katars were underperforming. But that tournament, everyone figured out that Katars were insane. And then right after the tournament, it was buffed. So I think it's a good thing that they didn't make any like changes prior to any tournaments. It's better that they give like some time to let the meta develop a little bit. And in general, these changes were not drastic. They were just like kind of making the game make more sense. So like these Artemis changes, they're really healthy for the game. Like these SIGs should be doing more damage for the risk reward, in my opinion. Like changes like these are really good. There are, although there's like some interesting things. For example, this is Suri buff where they made the down SIG have 3 extra V4s. It's questionable. A character like Asuri doesn't need that. She only has like 4 attack anyway. Like I would not have personally made this change, but increasing damage and like decreasing like stuff to make hitboxes or like sound or whatever better. This is all good stuff. This change is not like meta breaking. It just makes the character feel better to play. So I think it's fine. You know, there's some changes that obviously people have been complaining about for a lot. For example, this Bryn change, decreased damage of D-Sig on Spear from 39 to 28. That was needed for like the last 5 years. So it's a really good thing that they made this change finally. I'm grateful. And then, so this is like the trend I noticed this patch. They changed a lot of moves that like overlooked moves that have really weird damage numbers. Like, why does Bryn Axe Side Sig do 29 damage? That doesn't make any sense. That's like way more. That's like more than a delayed Saron sword. So, changes like these are super welcome. These are quality of life changes that make the game more balanced and make more sense. And that's what needed to happen. Because there was no sample size. They were just working with what they had from BCX. So, I think, again, like, changes like this is very good. Bodvar D-Sig on sword. Everyone's been complaining about this Sig. It definitely needed a nerf. No, like more than 2 V-Force changes at a time are usually pretty drastic. I'm not gonna lie. Like a change like this is a lot. We'll see how it changes stuff. Although I will say, any moves that spike, like off stage moves that spike, or moves that hit directly to the side or directly up, are very, very good. So sometimes the angle can carry more than like how much force it has. Like, this move is still gonna set up into a super easy edge guard. So, I think it's good. Also, something that I like is that they didn't remove delayed D-Sig on sword. Like, when they don't have a jump, or when they don't have a dodge, you can still do delayed GC D-Sig. I think having moves like that where you can confirm a hit with no dodge into a SIG is really healthy for the game. And it creates character depth. So I'm glad they didn't do that, and they just nerfed the SIG instead of nerfing like the hitbox to make that not happen, or making the startup too much for that to not be possible. Okay, this change I'm very interested in. Caspian is like super slept on. Oh, they did? Wait, they changed that? It's only jump... Yeah, okay, anyways. I didn't test it, but I didn't see anyone complaining about it. But yeah, I'm glad about this change. Okay, this change, though, is something I'm very, very interested in. Caspian is a character mega slept on right now. This move... where is it? Where's Caspian? D-Sig on Gauntlets is one of the most slept on moves in the entire game. In one of the recent patches, maybe it was like a little bit longer, this fucking move does so much force. Like, so much force. It's actually insane. That... Not only is it safe, the hitbox is kind of disgusting, but it also does like 24 damage. Or like 23 damage. He's just very, very good. And then, okay, increasing damage of SIGs can make a bad SIG worth actually pressing. And they increase the force by 4. Like, I'm very curious. Although, okay, here's the thing about Caspian, though. Caspian is one of those characters that's, like, kind of poorly designed. So, he doesn't have, like, a solid weapon synergy kit, if that makes sense. Since both of his weapons kind of do the exact same thing. They're, like, kind of string weapons and stuff. So, he needs... This is going to sound dumb, but for him to be viable, either one, both of his weapons need to be super broken. Which they aren't now, but they could be soon. At this rate. They aren't now, but they could be. Or his SIGs need to be ridiculously broken. An example of that is pre-nerf Mordex. Pre-nerf Mordex, SIGs were so broken that it didn't even matter that his weapons had, like, no synergy. And honestly, current Mordex too. But, like, stuff like that is what will make a character like Caspian viable. So I think it's a very good thing that they're making changes like this to Caspian. Increasing damage by, like, 7 on underused SIGs and, like, force. And, not only that, this just to mention, okay, put this in perspective. No, gauntlets are ridiculous right now, but, like, a greatsword-esque level of domination. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain the qualities that would have to exist, the state of the game, for Caspian to be, like, meta-defining. Okay, anyways, let's just put this into perspective. Caspian has, what, 7 attack? 8 attack? 7, right? He has 7 attack, right? And his side sig on Katars did 21 damage, okay? Bryn has 5 attack, and her down sig did 39 damage. It still does 28 damage. There's just always been, like, a major discrepancy between how good, like, the stats of a character, and how much damage their SIGs do. So it's just I'm so welcome to changes like this. Like, I'm so happy that they're finally making them. Here's where 2 months Daiko go. Appreciate that. But yeah. These are super good changes. It's not like Caspian's not going to be insane now, but these are changes that need to happen to put the game into a better overall state. This is like a relevant change. This sig it did 43 damage and you still didn't really use it. Thank you for the prime apple pie as well. This is a sig that was so high damage and you still didn't really use it. It was, like, hard to weave into your gameplay, so nerfing it is just kind of whatever. Like, it needed to happen. Like, 43 damage is a lot. It's, like, more than delay recovery on gauntlets. But, yeah. This is a welcome change. Diana's sidebow decreased damage. Like, when you see these numbers sometimes, it's just kind of ridiculous. Like, it's actually ridiculous that a character like Diana, who has 5 attack, does 33 damage with the SIG. Even 28 is kind of a lot. Now, the SIG is a pretty big commitment sometimes. So I think 28 is, like, kind of warranted. Maybe, like, 26 or 27 would be better, but that's just nitpicking at that point. And I think this is a super good change. It's kind of peculiar to see a change like this. It doesn't really... Like, out of all the things on Diana that I would nerf, number 1 would be down sig on bow. Number 2 would be end sig on bow. And then, like, number 10 would be Diana end sig on guns. But I don't hate it. I'm okay with it. Sometimes it killed early. It had more force than it needed to have. Thank you for the raid phase on. I think this is a welcome change. This doesn't affect how good Diana is at all. It just makes the game more, like, make more sense. So, I'm done with it. Okay, this is the most important change in the patch. This is the most important. The Dusk buffs are actually ridiculous. Almost nothing else matters. The rag, we'll get to it. Okay. This sig is horrible. No matter how good it was, like how good it was force-wise, you still wouldn't use it. Let me just give you an example of how horrible this sig is. I was doing some testing. Dusk has actually a really solid weapon combo and pretty good stats for his weapons. So let's just put the bot here on the platy, okay? Let's put it on the platy. What's going on here? Anyways, this thing is horrible. Just look at it. It's a fucking... Look at it. What? It's a line. It's literally a line, and it doesn't even go that high. So, okay. That's one thing. This needs to have like 80 force. If you get hit by this move, you should instantly lose the game. Like, it's so bad. But it's nice to see that it got changed. It's nice to see that they know it's a problem. Okay, this move was already good. Like, this move was already really good, actually. It was so good that there was a tournament set last year where Phazon played against Cody Travis and pretty much only won because of this move. It's like meta breaking. It hits grounded. It has an insane spot dodge catching mechanic. The hitbox is ridiculous on the explosion at the top. Like, and they buffed it by 4 V-Force. That is a ton. That is a ton of V-Force. This sig is so good. Like, it is so good. It's usable out of sidelight. It's usable out of D-light. It's just usable out of both D-lights. If you hit it off at the bottom or at the top. Like, this move is insane. It already was insane. And they buffed these 2 other moves, which were bad on on orb. And they just made them so much better. Like, the stats never made sense because they just never did the force. Like, his moves never did the force that they did, like that they should relative to the stats. But now that he has this, it's like that killed her. That killed her. V-Force? Okay. So fixed force is how much force the move will do regardless of how much damage they have. So at 0, let's just look at it. Neutral orb has 60 V-Force, so that's how far it will send them. That it has 60 fixed force. V-Force is how much force it gains depending on how much damage they're taking. So if it has like 100 V-Force, it's going to be sending so much further per point of damage that they have. So the lower the V-Force, like the less it changes and the less powerful it is, pretty much. Yeah, it's the force multiplier for damage. Okay. Anyways, Dusk is the sleeper pick now. It's not really sleeper, people know. His easy to kill with, 7 attack, insane orb kit, like literally insane orb kit now. And his stats are playable, so he's gonna be insane. This whatever, like this move was bad. It deserves buffs. This is fairly big nerf, like 5 and 4 V-Force. Rather than nerfing force, I would have rather, like, instead of nerfing force, I would have rather seen them actually just change the hitboxing and the recovery frames. Because Gnash has 7 attack, but he has 3 dex. I would have rather seen them address, like, the recovery frames of these moves instead of the attack. Or instead of the, like, force, but this is welcome anyway. These changes for Isaiah, they're okay. I mean, they're not really relevant in my opinion. Like anything less than like 3 is kind of a minor force, like V-Force change. And then, you know, this is nice, but this is not going to change Isaiah's viability at all. He needs more changes than this. And he needs guns to be good, because his weapon combo is not insane. This needed to happen like 9 months ago. It's welcome though. This is just like, this was kind of a given, you know? This move was game transcending. And it's probably still good. This probably does not change Jan's spot in the mid at all. Jiro buffs, always welcome. Jiro needs like 5 more rounds of buffs before he's really good though. This though, this is big, because remember what I'm talking about when I say like more than 3 V-Force is a lot? This is 5. This is 5 V-Force. This could have implications on the game. His stats are bad, but this could be very relevant down the line. I think this is a good change. And damage buffs are always nice. Damage buffs are always nice for SIGs that are way skewed in their risk versus reward. It's another move that's like way skewed in risk versus reward. There's like no reason to use this SIG. So giving him more damage is good. These two needed to happen 5 years ago. They're making the game make more sense, and that's really good. It's really good that they're making the game make more sense. And then obviously this move is just atrocious. It is an abomination to the game. It needs like 3 more rounds of these. This move, it doesn't make sense that a character like Mirage, who has 7 attack, that her big commitment SIG would do 21 damage. It just makes sense that they would buff it. These changes are fairly irrelevant. 2 V-Force changes on side SIG and D SIG. More damage. This is a SIG that has like major skew in risk reward. There's like no reason to use it. So yeah, a lot of these changes are good. Onyx should not have been buffed. Or if Onyx were to be buffed, there absolutely should have been compensation nerfs. But you know, making this character do more damage, like, it makes the game make more sense. But they also need to make the recovery frames on her SIGs make more sense too. Because Onyx is severely overtuned. Koji's sword and SIG just doesn't kill now. Dude, that makes no sense. They literally only decrease the damage. What? Okay. This is a major nerf. This is a major nerf. 9 variable force. 9. That is a lot. This is like kind of character breaking. This was one of the things that I was not expecting to see in this patch. This is a lot. This is a lot. And this is one of the things that made Ragdir like really good too. So it's really surprising to me to see it change like this. But at least they increased the force of side SIG by 2. That's kind of fire. Yeah. I was not expecting this. Like a minor nerf to it, sure. Like 5. But 9? 9 is a lot. 9 is a lot. Okay. Just making SIGs do more damage, always good. If it makes sense that it does more damage, that's good. Scarlet, this character was an abomination. Thank God they nerfed it. This SIG needed to be nerfed for like 10 years. So, I'm happy that it's nerfed. This is deserved. This SIG had no business being so safe, hitting so hard. I hated that SIG. Sentinel. Doesn't make sense for a 6 attack character to have 20 damage SIGs. Maybe his end SIG should have been nerfed on Hammer. Just a thought. Just a thought. That SIG could have been nerfed for sure. But, because Sentinel, Hammer, end SIG, I don't know if this is a well-known fact. But Sentinel, Hammer, end SIG does a fair amount of damage for being awfully safe. Let this one sink in. Anyways, I think Sentinel and Sig Hammer should have been nerfed like years ago, but that's okay. This is a welcome change. Sentinel's a really good character though, like really good. So yeah, I would not be surprised. I mean, Sentinel got like second in Winters. We already knew Sentinel was a good character. I'm glad to see a change like this. It doesn't make sense for a 6 to do that little damage. Leave this. Okay, Ulgrim. This make the game make more sense. Honestly, I'm not even opposed to this Sig doing 34 damage, but decreasing it is fine to me as well. This Sig is like hard. When I saw Val, okay, I'm gonna be honest. When I saw Val in the patch notes, this is what I was expecting. Sword and Sig, nerf. Force, recovery time, damage, startup, cooldown, all 5. The 5 fecta. I was expecting it. But, you know, decreasing the damage of Sword down Sig by 7, I'm down with that too. Make it make sense. I like that. Now it's just like a Bryn down Sig, and that's cool. Lord Vrax end Sig on guns. Yep, shouldn't do 30 damage. That's cool. Oh, I skipped Volkov. Yep. I'm fine with this. This makes sense. Although he has like no force. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Maybe like 22, but whatever, it's nitpicking, who cares? 19 damage on a Sig is very weak. Zol buffs, wasn't expecting this, but it kind of makes sense because he has 9 force. Like his Sig should hit hard. His Sig should hit hard. So I'm totally fine with this. I would have expected like maybe a compensation nerf, but I'd rather them bring characters up than like take a bunch of characters down. So overall, this patch was very good. This is exactly what I would like to see from like the first patch of the year. You know what I mean? This is exactly what I like to see. So I'm happy about it. I'm content. You know, I'm looking forward. These last 2 patches that they've done have been very, very good. The patch right before this and this patch have both been extremely good. Like, the direction that they're going with the game is better than I've ever felt. Like, I've never felt more confident about the future of this game than I have now. So, I'm very, very happy about it. I think we're in for a very good 2021. That's all I have to say about that.